On that day, September 10th in Utah, do you feel like Charlie's security team did everything to the best of their ability, or were there mistakes made?
The tragic shooting of Charlie Kirk left everyone in shock, but now, for the first time, his security agent is finally breaking the silence. After days of speculation, the truth about what happened that day is starting to unravel. So, what really went down behind the scenes? Let's break it down. The security breakdown. In the wake of one of the most shocking political assassinations in recent American history, a deafening silence has surrounded those who were supposed to protect Charlie Kirk. But now, for the first time since that fateful September 10th, 2025, someone from his inner circle is finally speaking out, and what they're revealing is raising more questions than answers. When Charlie Kirk was fatally shot at Utah Valley University, the 31-year-old conservative firebrand was in the middle of his American Comeback Tour, a speaking series designed to mobilize young conservatives across college campuses. The shooting, which occurred at precisely 12:23 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, sent shockwaves through a crowd of approximately 3,000 attendees and instantly ignited a national conversation about political violence, security failures, and the growing dangers facing public figures in America's increasingly polarized landscape. But here's what's been eating at people ever since. How did a 22-year-old with no military training manage to take a single, precise shot from 142 yards away that instantly killed one of the most protected conservative voices in America? And why have the people who were literally standing next to Kirk when it happened remained so conspicuously silent until now?
On that day, September 10th in Utah, do you feel like Charlie's security team did everything to the best of their ability, or were there mistakes made?
This question, posed to someone close to Kirk's security operation, cuts right to the heart of what millions of Americans have been asking themselves. Because when you look at the facts, and I mean really look at them, something doesn't add up. Kirk's security was handled by private firms, not federal agents. Turning Point USA had a long-term contract with Schaffer Security Group from 2015 to 2022, but switched to Integrity Security Solutions in early 2023. Now here's where it gets interesting. Greg Schaffer, the founder of the original security company, publicly stated in a now-deleted tweet that his firm was not involved in the UVU event, blaming Integrity for hiding in the shadows and failing to take responsibility. Schaffer claimed Integrity underbid him after what he called a backstab by former employees. Think about that for a moment. The man who protected Charlie Kirk for 7 years is pointing fingers at the company that replaced him, and then his entire social media account vanishes amid scrutiny.
First and foremost, it's like really bothering me that there are people out there that even suggesting that Charlie's security team was somehow, lackluster or involved, like insanely involved with something. Like, absolutely not. The Charlie security team we've known for many, many years. They are like brothers with Charlie.
But here's the thing, people aren't just suggesting there were problems. Let's break down what we know piece by piece, because the devil is truly in the details here. Integrity Security Solutions, the company handling Kirk's protection that day, was founded by Brian Harpole, a former police officer and 7-year veteran of Greg Schaffer's original security group. The firm is based in Lantana, Texas, and focuses on executive protection, but despite their supposed expertise, they failed to secure the rooftops, a fundamental, almost elementary aspect of protecting someone at an outdoor event.
We have an elite force of people who are supporting Charlie at all times. And had they even known or suspected that there would be even an element of danger that day in Utah, they wouldn't even let him out of the car, off the plane, into public life.
An elite force, they say. Yet the shooter, Tyler James Robinson, managed to access the Losey Center rooftop at 11:52 a.m., more than half an hour before the shooting, using nothing more sophisticated than a Phillips head screwdriver to pry open a locked panel. He assembled his weapon, got into position, and waited. For over 30 minutes, he laid there, completely undetected.
Every single event that's held is a combination of our security team working with the local police. In this case, on university campuses, it's the university police. The university police department is responsible. There's a line that is drawn, right, where there's personal protection for Charlie versus protection for the campus.
This statement reveals a critical problem. They didn't know, they didn't suspect, they weren't prepared. And in the security business, that's not just a failure. It's a catastrophic breakdown of the most basic protocols. Now, let's talk about Dan Flood, TPUSA's Director of Executive Protection and Chief Asset Manager. Flood is a former Marine who had been with Kirk for years. But here's where the conspiracy theories start to have some teeth. Footage from the event shows what some are calling suspicious behavior. There are claims of arm signals before the shot, security team members allegedly syncing watches, and what appears to be coordinated movements that seem almost choreographed.
In this case, for Utah Valley University, their responsibility was to protect the campus, all of the perimeter, rooftops, everything else. When we go out in public, our team handles those things where there isn't a police department to work with or do that with.
And here's a crucial detail that cannot be overstated. The university police department was responsible for protecting the campus perimeter, including rooftops. This wasn't just Kirk's private security dropping the ball. It was a systemic failure involving multiple agencies and entities. Utah Valley University Police had 6 officers on site. Orem Police Department had 4. Kirk's private security added 6 more. That's 16 trained professionals who somehow missed a 22-year-old kid climbing onto a roof with a rifle. But wait, it gets worse, much worse.
Kind of walk me through what stands out to you the most regarding just the safety aspects that were kind of perhaps overlooked in this incident.
A security expert who analyzed the event pointed out something that should send shivers down your spine.
I have a lot of questions about how this was coordinated beforehand. It looks to me as if the entire operation was rushed.
Rushed. That's the word that keeps coming up. There was no ambulance standing by, which is standard protocol for any event of this size, especially one with a high-profile figure. Instead, Kirk was rushed to the hospital in a private SUV, a decision that, while understandable in the panic of the moment, violated basic emergency response protocols.
In terms of developing what you would call like a rapid response plan to, something like what happened, you would have wanted an EMS, like an ambulance, stood by, within close proximity. And that, that's further evidenced by the fact that they elected to transport him to a hospital via private vehicle. I've looked into that, and, on a good day, that's still an 8-minute drive via private vehicle through red lights and intersections.
The security expert continues with an observation that raises even more questions.
And again, this is just speculative, I don't know. But it appears that he was wearing a rifle plate and nothing else. And this just shows you, what a rifle plate covers. In actuality, what should have been worn was soft armor like this, which this in particular is a 3A vest.
Kirk was wearing body armor, but it was insufficient, just a rifle plate that covered his chest, leaving his neck and other vital areas completely exposed. As the expert explains,
with the rifle plate inserted. And what this does, specifically the soft trauma plates themselves, help arrest the momentum of the projectile, because what I've seen, and this will obviously be confirmed through autopsy and the FBI's investigative report.
This detail is particularly haunting because the bullet struck Kirk in the neck, just below his jawline, exactly where proper body armor would have protected him. The expert's analysis suggests the projectile may have actually deflected off something, possibly the edge of his armor, sending fragments upward into the vulnerable area of his neck. But here's what's really getting people's attention, and what's fueling the wildest conspiracy theories online. Candace Owens, a close friend and colleague of Kirk's, made a bombshell claim that has sent shockwaves through conservative media.
I will tell you, Charlie owned the security company. So that security company you see that's around him, he owned it. He actually outright purchased a security company, and it didn't matter.
Wait, what? Kirk owned his own security company? Owens continues.
They should never be allowed to work again, because why would you not have, he's a sitting duck. The amount that he was paying for that security, for them to not check rooftops, you could have someone actually requiring that you have access to rooftops. You could have one of your guys on a rooftop.
This claim, if true, fundamentally changes everything about this story. But here's the problem. There's no independent verification of Owens' statement. No corporate filings have surfaced showing Kirk's ownership of any security company. No business records, nothing. And when Greg Schaffer, the former security contractor, publicly distanced himself from the event and blamed Integrity Security, he made no mention of Kirk having any ownership stake in either company.
Charlie's team would have done anything and everything, particularly if it was completely within our purview.
And this is where the silence from Kirk's actual security team becomes absolutely deafening. Dan Flood, Brian Harpole, and the rest of the Integrity Security team have said nothing publicly since the shooting. Zero statements, no explanations, no press conferences, nothing. The only people talking are former contractors like Schaffer, political commentators like Owens, and unnamed sources speaking to select media outlets. Why? What are they hiding? Or more charitably, what are they legally prohibited from discussing? Because here's the thing about security failures of this magnitude. There are always lawsuits, always investigations, always someone looking to assign blame and extract compensation. And in those situations, silence isn't just golden. It's legally mandated by teams of attorneys who know that one wrong word can cost millions in damages. the conspiracy theories and suspicious details. But silence, as we're learning in real time, doesn't stop speculation, it feeds it, and nowhere has that been more apparent than in the explosion of conspiracy theories that have emerged in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination. Within hours of the shooting, social media platforms like X, formerly Twitter, were flooded with alternative explanations for what happened. Some of these theories are admittedly far-fetched, bordering on science fiction, but others point to real, documented anomalies that even the official investigation hasn't adequately explained. Let's start with the most controversial theory making the rounds: the idea that Kirk's death wasn't the work of a lone shooter at all, but rather a coordinated operation involving multiple actors, possibly even members of his own security team. The evidence cited for this theory is extensive, though circumstantial. Footage from the event allegedly shows Dan Flood, Kirk's director of executive protection, making what some interpret as an arm signal seconds before the shot was fired. Other clips appear to show security personnel synchronizing their watches and making deliberate hand gestures that conspiracy theorists claim are coordinated cues. Now, before you dismiss this as typical internet paranoia, consider this. Flood's background includes some interesting details. Photos from 2009 resurfaced, showing him on modeling sites, which some theorists have used to suggest he was compromised or blackmailed. Additionally, he appears in photographs connected to Erica Kirk's Romanian charity, Everyday Heroes Like You, also known as United Hands Romania, which has been accused, without proof, of involvement in child trafficking. These connections have led to elaborate theories suggesting Flood was forced to sabotage Kirk's security, possibly due to exposure of his past or alleged involvement in the charity's supposed illicit activities. The theory is further embellished by claims that Flood has ties to JINSA, Jewish Institute for National Security of America, implying Israeli infiltration of Kirk's security apparatus, especially after Kirk allegedly began distancing himself from pro-Israel positions. Is any of this true? Here's the honest answer: we don't know. There's no concrete proof of blackmail, no verified evidence of hand signals being coordinated assassination cues, and no substantiated connection between the Romanian charity and human trafficking. But the complete absence of any official statement from Flood or other security team members addressing these specific allegations has allowed the theories to metastasize online, growing more elaborate with each passing day. Then there's the forensic evidence, or rather the apparent lack of it in some areas and the abundance of it in others, creating a confusing picture that doesn't quite add up. The bullet that killed Charlie Kirk was reportedly a .308 Winchester round, some sources say .30-06, fired from a bolt-action rifle. According to official accounts, the bullet entered the left side of Kirk's neck, severed his carotid artery, and lodged in his body without creating an exit wound. But here's where things get weird. Multiple witnesses and analysts have noted that the wound pattern doesn't quite match what you'd expect from that type of ammunition at that range.
This was and I don't want to sound like I'm being glib or make light of this when I say this was a cake shot that an amateur could have made, and that clearly was the case here. Was this kid familiar with guns? Yes, he lived in Utah.
An FBI sniper analyst who examined the shooting explained that from less than 200 yards away, with a 10x scope, this wasn't a particularly difficult shot, but other forensic experts have questioned why a high-powered rifle round failed to pass through Kirk's neck entirely. The official explanation suggests the bullet fragmented upon impact, but that raises its own questions about the ammunition used and the specific trajectory. Adding to the confusion, immediately after Kirk was shot, footage shows security personnel disturbing the crime scene, moving chairs, removing SD cards from cameras, and handling evidence before law enforcement could properly secure the area. One particularly suspicious clip appears to show someone taking an SD card, placing it in a hat, and then putting the hat on their head, a move that, if intentional, would represent a deliberate attempt to hide or preserve evidence outside official channels.
So this just happened. We just found out that Charlie Kirk got shot.
It's fucking awful.
And is he dead?
That's what was just
one of the guys out there just said it was
spoken
confirmed that he's dead.
in the lobby was just
I've been looking. I haven't seen anything that said confirmed.
The immediate aftermath of the shooting was chaotic, as captured in this clip from Joe Rogan's podcast, where they learned of Kirk's death in real time. But chaos doesn't excuse the contamination of a crime scene, especially one involving the assassination of a major political figure. Within minutes of the shooting, the area where Kirk fell was being dug up and reconstructed. New concrete was poured. Evidence markers that should have remained in place for days were removed within hours. This has led to speculation that crucial ballistic evidence, specifically the final resting place of the bullet or bullet fragments, was either lost or deliberately concealed. But here's what really has people's minds spinning. There's a 1998 movie called Snake Eyes, starring Nicolas Cage, and the parallels to Kirk's assassination are unsettling. In the film, a politician named Charles Kirkland is assassinated at a boxing match on September 10th. He's shot on the left side of his neck. The boxer involved in creating the distraction is named Tyler and nicknamed the Executioner. There's a tropical storm in the movie called Hurricane Jezebel, the same name as an online magazine that allegedly hired witches in August to put a hex on Charlie Kirk. Parts of the film were shot at Trump's Taj Mahal Hotel and Casino, and the movie's tagline, "Believe everything except your eyes." Now, is this evidence of anything? Of course not. It's a bizarre coincidence, the kind that makes your skin crawl but ultimately proves nothing. But it's exactly these kinds of eerie parallels that feed the conspiracy mill, especially when combined with legitimate questions about security failures and forensic anomalies. Let's talk about the shooter himself, Tyler James Robinson, a 22-year-old from Washington, Utah. According to official accounts, Robinson was a lone wolf who had recently radicalized online, shifting from a conservative Mormon upbringing to embracing leftist ideology, partially influenced by his transgender boyfriend. But here's what doesn't add up for a lot of people. Robinson had no military training, no advanced shooting experience beyond casual recreational use that professional snipers have described as precise and well executed. He accessed the rooftop undetected, assembled his weapon, waited in position for over 30 minutes, took his shot at exactly the right moment, and then escaped the scene, all without leaving any DNA on the rifle itself, though his DNA was found on a towel wrapping the weapon and on a screwdriver used to access the roof. The FBI's investigation has been thorough, with over 11,000 public tips submitted within the first 48 hours. But public skepticism remains high, particularly given FBI Director Kash Patel's early missteps, including a premature tweet claiming a suspect was in custody before Robinson had even been identified. And then there's the autopsy controversy, a whole separate can of worms that has opened up entirely new avenues of speculation. Audio emerged from what appears to be police dispatch communications, with an officer stating he did not go in for an autopsy. The death certificate was signed by the doctor at the hospital. If true, this would be a massive violation of Utah law, which mandates autopsies in all homicide cases.
So I did do the request. They emailed me back. He did not go in for an autopsy. The death certificate was signed by the doctor at the hospital.
But then a contradictory report surfaced claiming that an autopsy was indeed performed, with preliminary findings showing a single gunshot wound to the neck that severed critical arteries and the cervical spine. So which is it? Was there an autopsy or wasn't there? A mortician who analyzed the situation pointed out that the confusion might stem from the specific timing and location of the autopsy.
So new, an autopsy was performed on Charlie Kirk's body and the death certificate was issued based on the initial hospital findings, and then Charlie's body was transferred to the medical examiner for the full autopsy the next day.
This would actually make sense from a procedural standpoint, a preliminary death certificate signed at the hospital, followed by a full forensic autopsy at the medical examiner's office. But the fact that there's any confusion at all, combined with the complete lack of official clarification from Utah authorities, has only fueled more speculation. Political aftermath and unanswered questions. The political fallout from Charlie Kirk's assassination has been unlike anything we've seen in modern American politics, and that's saying something, given the increasingly violent nature of our current political climate.
Thank you very much for joining me. I want to say a few words regarding the terrible murder yesterday of Charlie Kirk, someone who I strongly disagreed with on almost every issue, but who was clearly a very smart and effective communicator and organizer, and someone unafraid to get out into the world and engage the public.
Even Senator Bernie Sanders condemned the assassination in the strongest terms.
A free and democratic society, which is what America is supposed to be about, depends upon the basic premise that people can speak out, organize, and take part in public life without fear, without worrying that they might be killed, injured, or humiliated for expressing their political views.
But not everyone on the left responded with such measured condemnation. In the immediate aftermath of the shooting, social media exploded with reactions ranging from genuine shock and grief to barely concealed celebration. Some users posted statements like, "The world's better without him," or suggested he had it coming due to his controversial views on transgender rights and other hot-button issues. This led to a wave of firings and forced resignations. A Seattle teacher was dismissed for posting "good riddance" on social media. Several corporate employees lost their jobs for making inflammatory comments comments about Kirk's death. A news anchor resigned after being suspended for airing a tribute to Kirk that his station deemed too political.
Charlie was doing what I was doing. Same thing, going right to the heart of the liberalism plague that's going on nowadays, which is almost always incubated in college universities all across America. Can't debate the ideas. First day of the tour, had to take him out with everybody watching, and they celebrated he's dead.
This reaction from conservative commentators, while perhaps hyperbolic, reflects a genuine sense that Kirk's assassination represents something more than just a tragic, isolated incident. Kirk was specifically targeted while discussing transgender issues and mass shootings, creating what many see as a chilling effect on free speech.
The tour last year was wildly successful. People came out, people watched. He changed a lot of minds, got a lot of people to the voter polls. People that otherwise would have probably never voted for Trump did.
The effectiveness of Kirk's college campus tours, particularly his Prove Me Wrong events, had made him a particularly prominent target for those who opposed his views. Turning Point USA's influence had grown exponentially under his leadership, with chapters at over 3,000 campuses by 2025 and millions in donations from conservative benefactors. But the questions about his security team's failures keep coming back to haunt this story. The division of responsibility, private security for Kirk personally, university police for the broader campus, created gaps in coverage that Tyler Robinson was able to exploit. The fact that he accessed the rooftop using only a screwdriver more than 30 minutes before the event suggests that no one was actually checking these supposedly secured areas. The political violence in America has been escalating for years, with Kirk's assassination representing just the latest and most high-profile incident in a disturbing trend. From the January 6th Capitol riot to multiple assassination attempts on Donald Trump, from the attack on Paul Pelosi to the murder of Minnesota legislators, the list of political violence continues to grow.
Sadly, this is not a new phenomenon. We all remember the assassinations of President Kennedy, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Senator Robert F. Kennedy, John Lennon, Medgar Evers, and the attempted assassinations of President Ronald Reagan and Alabama Governor George Wallace. This is a difficult and contentious moment in American history. Democracy in our country and throughout the world is under attack.
Senator Sanders' statement placed Kirk's assassination in this broader historical context, but it also highlighted how the pace of such violence seems to be accelerating in recent years.
And there are a lot of reasons for that which need serious discussion. But bottom line, if we honestly believe in democracy, if we believe in freedom, all of us must be loud and clear. Political violence, regardless of ideology, is not the answer and must be condemned.
Yet the response from the public has been far from united. Rasmussen polls from mid-September showed that 58% of Americans believed heated political rhetoric contributed to the shooting, with 45% expressing fear of civil war-like escalation. Among Republicans, 42% believed in some form of government involvement or conspiracy, and the theories keep evolving. One particularly wild conspiracy suggests that Kirk's assassination was actually a deep state operation involving either CIA, FBI, or even Israeli Mossad agents. Proponents point to the precision of the shot, the alleged security lapses that seem almost intentional, and Kirk's supposed recent cooling toward pro-Israel positions as potential motives. The Anti-Defamation League tracked over 10,000 anti-Semitic posts blaming Israel or Jewish donors for Kirk's death within the first 48 hours after the shooting. These theories often incorporate legitimate questions about security failures with baseless accusations about foreign intelligence services.
I'm not sure he necessarily believed in anything. His entire career, he was desperate to raise donations. He needed to. And so I think he became unnaturally good at telling Republicans what they wanted to hear.
Some critics, even in death, have questioned Kirk's sincerity and motivations. But regardless of one's opinion of his politics or methods, what happened on September 10th, 2025 was a tragedy that has exposed deep fractures in American society and serious questions about how we protect public figures in an age of increasing polarization. The silence from Kirk's security team continues. Dan Flood hasn't spoken publicly. Brian Harpole and the rest of Integrity Security Solutions remain mum. The only statements have come from unnamed sources close to the operation, defending their actions while providing no specific details about the security failures that day. Meanwhile, Tyler Robinson sits in jail, facing aggravated murder charges and potential capital punishment. His arraignment, conducted virtually due to security concerns, revealed a young man who appears lost and confused, hardly the professional assassin that some conspiracy theories require him to be.
Because I recognized immediately, I think I was a lot more logical than I thought I would be in that moment, where I was like, that's an assassination. He is the target. He is the only target. I am freaked out, but I know that I'm okay.
An eyewitness to the shooting described the immediate recognition that this wasn't a random act of violence, but a targeted killing. That clarity in the moment stands in stark contrast to the confusion and conflicting narratives that have emerged in the weeks since. So where does that leave us? With more questions than answers, unfortunately. The official investigation continues, with FBI Director Kash Patel promising transparency while simultaneously facing criticism for his early media statements. The security team remains silent while the conspiracy theories continue to multiply. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.